Alrighty, we're ready. So, hi everyone, and welcome to our latest episode in the Charting the Future series. It takes a village: educational success through family and community support. I'm Dr. Donnie Mae Morgan from the Office for Youth Engagement at Texas A&M University, and our office is dedicated to helping K through 8 students and their families discover the wide range of post-secondary opportunities available to them. So we believe that the journey toward college, career, or technical training doesn't start in high school. It starts now. So with intentional support and access. So in today's workshop, we're focusing on how families can support their children academically while tapping into the people, programs, and community resources that make a real difference. So no one has to walk this path alone. So when families, schools, and communities work together, students thrive. Now, our guest today is the lovely Dr. Tiffany Hollis, who is a professor at Coastal Carolina University, who brings firsthand experience supporting students and families through educational challenges and turning points. So we'll be talking about how to build a strong academic support system, both at home and in the community. So let's jump in and explore how to help students stay motivated, access resources, and build a network that helps them succeed. So, as we all know, every child learns differently and has different needs along their academic journey, whether it's staying organized, managing learning challenges, or needing emotional support. Even identifying those first needs is the first step in that journey. So, I guess I'll kind of start off. Dr. Hollis, how can parents assess or better understand what kind of academic support their child may need? What are some kind of tips and tricks there?
Well, I think it's very important to make sure that you meet the teacher. And in meeting that teacher, you let the teacher know your expectations as a parent. I think one of the things that we fail to do is to truly tap into the knowledge of those who know our children best, which are their parents. And sometimes we often, and I say we because as a fellow educator, we often assess or assess the students in our classroom based on tests or based on our observations, but we rarely ask the parents about what's happening or what's going on or what. And I think that starts with forming a sense of community, letting the students know, letting the parents know that it's a welcoming environment, letting them know that you are there to listen to them and to take their feedback and any insight they can provide regarding their child, and that you're a partner, not just someone who's looking at their child as a number, but truly someone who is a partner in their child's academic, social, emotional, and behavioral success. And so I think that's very important. Getting to know the teacher so that way when anything happens, you and the teacher as partners can make sure that you address the needs of that particular child.
And I think that's definitely a good component, especially if you're wanting to merge the school with home and the community for the whole
Mhm.
child, is definitely getting to know your teachers. But you said what I definitely think is the most thing to be noted is knowing what the expectations are, because I think that causes a lot of misunderstandings and supporting children through school and educational endeavors is the teacher and the parent not always being on the same page with
Mhm.
what is expected of the other going forward
Mhm.
and how to like address it. So I think that's definitely key, not just meeting the teachers, but like you said, what is my expectation as an educator based upon the parents? Like what is the parent expecting of the educator? And then also what is the educator expecting? Because that can change parent to parent as well as teacher to teacher. So it's important you're meeting those teachers every year, because what one teacher might expect might not be what another teacher expects, or they might expect something different. Communication might look differently. So I think it's important to not just meet the teachers, but to meet them year to year and to have those conversations. Now, while we're having those conversations to try to understand the academic support that their child needs, what do you think might be some of the signs that a student may need additional help or encouragement? Like, how could you see it both as an educator, as well as, how might parents be able to see that they might need additional help either at school or at home?
Again, I think that's kind of where that partnership has to come back into play, where a teacher may say, hey, today we worked on our 6 multiplication facts, and Johnny struggled a little bit. Here are some reinforcing activities that you can do with him at home. Now, some parents may work and may not have time to do some of that reinforcement at home. So, one of the things the teachers could also do too, and I know this is a lot, putting a lot on the teacher, but sometimes those students do need a little extra help, especially if you know that there's a parent that's working hard to meet the needs of their child. And so maybe they can't, there are certain things they can't do, but they want to do it, right? And so, as a teacher, you may say, okay, I'm going to spend a couple minutes at the beginning of class with Johnny to kind of do some review and some scaffolding and some different things to kind of see where he is. And then I'm going to send stuff on the weekend with his mom to just kind of refresh. Because again, sometimes the weekend may work better, but then again, you never know. A parent may have a weekend job on top of the weekday job, right? So again, you just have to kind of know your students. You have to know their needs. You have to know what you think they need, not just academically, but in other areas too, because with schooling, it's a holistic endeavor when it comes to meeting the needs of students. If you can't, it goes back to the whole thing with Maslow's. If certain things aren't met for the student, then it presents more needs, right? And so as an educator, you kind of have to be aware of not only the signs, but what you can do as well to be kind of proactive, right? And I know we wear so many hats as educators, but again, if we are focused and truly focused on ensuring student success, then it's nothing to take off a hat and put on another one because that's part of our mission as educators. So that's what we're supposed to do.
That's again one of those important parts is that, like you said, that partnership and coming together with one another and working together. And I'm sure, like I said, parents can understand teachers and teachers can understand parents because
Mm-hmm.
both wear multiple hats. Different scenario might call for a different hat. So you just kind of got to know which one of those hats do you need to wear and when to put on that other hat. Now, I hope you don't mind. I'm mixing a couple questions that I received also that's
Okay.
on topic because one question I've had more than once from my avid teachers that I work with is the difficulties, as well as I've had this question from some parents as well, initiating conversations with either the parents initiating it with the teachers or the teachers initiating those conversations with parents when their student may need additional support. Because I'm sure you know, as an educator and lots of experience supporting students, sometimes those conversations can easily go astray. And especially if you approach it in the wrong way, it can honestly make all the difference of the direction that conversation can go. So when we're creating those partnerships and wanting to kind of work together and creating that whole support system, do you have any like tips or tricks or some things that you might learn that you can kind of suggest to people that might have that question on how to initiate conversations with teachers, school staff, or how do you initiate the conversation with parents on behalf of the teachers to better support the student?
So again, I think it goes back to that relationship, right? So a teacher should know you when you call them to tell them that their child misbehaved or their child got a bad grade or something negative. It goes back to making sure that you're communicating with the parents, even if it's a lot of times they use now a lot of schools are subscribing and doing digital ways of reaching out to parents, having QR codes for parents, so things that are accessible, especially for parents who are busy or on the go or juggling multiple balls and different things. And so again, I think it's that relationship, right? And then that way the teacher knows, oh, it's Miss Smith calling. Let me get that. Or oh, let me see what she has to say, right? And then instead of oh God, Miss Smith calling, wonder what she wants now. It's more of it's received a little bit better, received to the point where again the parent is receptive of what the teacher has to say, and the teacher is receptive of what the parent has to say. And sometimes they can arrive at a compromise for the needs of that child, and sometimes they might disagree. But in that disagreement, they still say to each other, although we might disagree, I still respect you as his parent. I still respect you as his teacher, right? And so again, relationships, respect, all of those things play a role in trying to approach the other, I guess I should say, without making the other feel like the other, right? So making sure that you have that sense of rapport between both parties, so that way again, and also the student knows, oh my word, my mom's gonna call Miss Smith, or oh my word, Miss Smith's gonna call my mom, right? So that student also knows, and I think that's one of the things that's missing too is when a teacher and a parent have that relationship, and the student sees that, that plays a role in how that student's going to respond to whatever situation might be happening in the class. A bad grade, a bad day, a good grade, um, something that happened in specials or encore or the area, special areas, right? So again, relationship and respect are probably the foundation of being able to approach one or the other, the parent or the teacher.
I can definitely agree with that, but based on experience, that respect goes a long way. I think it's especially important in initiating those conversations because if you already know that other person respects you and kind of respects your role and knows that you're kind of meeting expectations, that when you have that conversation, and even if it's a difficult conversation, you know where that conversation is coming from. Like you know where the other person's heart is. So whether that's teacher to parent or parent to teacher, if you know that that person respects you, I mean, heck, that even applies day to day, like right in your
Mhm.
everyday people. If you know that that person like respects you, then you know they're coming at you the right way, even if it's something negative, and even if they're not, I think you also give them the benefit of the doubt. If you know that they've respected you, you've never had any issues, they've kind of always respected you as a teacher, what you're trying to do, and they know you're trying to have the best interests of the student in heart, that if you have that hard conversation, or maybe there's a miscommunication, or maybe you're a bit direct in your message or something, when you have that mutual respect, I think that goes a long way in initiating conversations. And in
Mhm.
that same conversations, what I've experienced, and I just want to ask your kind of advice or what you think on it, because I've gotten feedback from some parents, both for and against, that they don't like always receiving like bad information, like only
Mhm.
being contacted when there's a behavioral issue, because it
Mhm.
kind of starts an honest as soon as like that, whether it's your class dojo or whatever system you're using, or that email that comes in, like you said, when you see that name, like, oh, they're emailing me again, or what is it now, or what are they doing now? Would you say in your experience it's kind of the same, and also the same even from the teachers? Like if the teachers, our parents are contacting the teachers, if it's always contacting it with an issue, or never contacting and just, I just want to know how they're doing. Like those
Mhm.
kinds of more general conversations. Would you say that that's kind of true, that they like to get, I guess, variety in conversation? Would you say that's your
Mhm.
experience as well?
Well, what I will say too is, so I taught students with emotional behavioral disabilities. So some of the most um, hard to reach, hard to teach students, right? And some of the ones where parents expect the phone call to come. Parents expect to hear the bad day and bad news and all of those things. But one of the things I did was I created parent empowerment sessions where the parents would come in and we would have like little family fun nights just in our behavior class, in our special education behavior class. And then I would do where I had vendors come in. They did massages and self care for the parents, right? How to work with these, how to parent children with difficult behaviors, right? And so then it empowered the parents. And so by doing that, I created a community of where the parents knew, well, if I need anything, I know she has my back. And I knew the same thing for the parents, to the point where even when we did little activities in class, I invited the parents to come. If the parents couldn't come, I had another adult that the student looked up to in the class, in the school building, maybe a principal or an assistant principal or interventionist. They came in and became that person's kind of support system. So that way everyone had someone to support them. But then it also kind of spoke volumes to the parents to say, oh, well, I wasn't there this time, but I'll be there the next one. Right. And so a lot of parents were able to create that sense of support within the classroom. And by doing that, it helped meet the needs of the students, meet the needs of the parents. It helped, again, build that rapport, but it empowered the parents to the point where they felt like they could also call me and say, hey, this happened, or this is what happened with him, and he's on his way to school. Just wanted to give you a heads up and let you know, right? So those kind of things too, where we work together. And if the student was having a bad morning, they'd tell me. If the student had a tough day on the way to the bus, I'd call them and tell them, right? So we kind of knew how to modify the environment so that we could help them turn their day around, so to speak. And so again, it wasn't just, oh, he did this and I had to do a restraint. It was more of, we did this today, and here's the little things that he did, or here's the light bulb that went off, or so again the little things. So that way when we called for a behavior, it wasn't, oh boy, it was, oh hey, he did what, okay, I'm on my way, kind of thing, right? Or okay, let me talk with him kind of thing, right? It wasn't just, oh gosh, or oh, she always called me about my son, talking about how bad he is instead of trying to work with him. She's a teacher. She should know her job, you know. So again, it was creating that sense of unity and community within the classroom. So that way we were able to have that partnership and work together. I think parents are the prime partners when it comes to academic, behavioral, and emotional success of students in general. So again, calling them when a student is acting up doesn't need to be the first thing you resort to. It needs to be when anything happens in that classroom, and even if they get tired of you emailing them or calling them or sharing with them, that's okay. You're still doing your part.
And I think that's honestly that one act of just like you said, having those parent
Mhm.
empowerment sessions, it at least in my personal humble opinion, solves a lot of issues. Like, yeah, it's more work on the teacher, of course, and plates are full, and it's also more time and investment on the parents' part coming up to the schools for those like parent empowerment sessions or your get-togethers. But I think it goes a long way and it kind of weighs out in the end is it makes other things that you're doing in the classroom in other ways kind of less stressful on the job and actually less work in the long run. And
Mhm.
like you noted, even when the parent can't come there, I believe when you're creating those relationships and that support system and you're kind of having that rapport and sense of community that when they're not there, you can still feel like you're in it together. Like if the parent maybe doesn't get communication from you, or maybe you miss an email because it's start testing season or testing season and you didn't get back to them immediately, they still don't feel necessarily that disconnect. Or if there's a time a parent can't come in, I feel like that since you already have that sense of community, that that they're in it together. Like that parent is with you, even if they can't physically make it to all the sessions that you're kind of requesting of them or all the projects, like you said, the class project. And I think that's amazing that you would pull in additional adults in their lives. Of course, humbly for me as an auntie, I would love to get the emails where I get to come in, even if, my siblings couldn't come in to do their projects with them, because my sisters have definitely pulled me in with the things that they don't necessarily enjoy doing, like Halloween parties, because I for sure love cosplaying, would dress up, come join the Halloween parties, and the kids loved it, and I loved it because I could just big kid out, and I got to see my nieces and nephews in their environment with their friends. So I think that
Mhm.
that's an amazing thing when teachers are able to also bring in those others that are in their lives
Yes.
because and especially like you mentioned that the student looks up to, I think is an important component because maybe it's their big brother or big sister that they have
Mhm.
big brothers and sisters. So it could be a mentor. I mean, I've had certainly some mentors from people that I've been in school with that have become my mentors or even past professors that if I was having a tough time, especially in that doctoral journey, definitely those tough nights where I could reach out to text message, through that support system. So it wasn't necessarily a parent. It wasn't necessarily my current professor or my current teacher, but it was those people that I could look up to and those people that I definitely had that safe space with to have those conversations in those moments. So I think that that's definitely important in creating that support system and you inviting them into the classroom in all those moments. A little bit extra work, but I think it definitely pays off at the end.
Yes.
Now you
Yes.
you mentioned a way to pull them into the classroom, which is definitely important, but you and I both know that support does not just happen in the classroom. And creating a consistent and supportive environment also includes the home environment and it makes like a big difference.
Mhm.
So just based on your experience, what are some simple things that maybe families could do at home, whether it's promoting good study habits or just that growth mindset when you're thinking about creating a supportive system where the school and the home is working in tandem? What are some simple things that families might be able to do at home to ensure that on that side isn't creating that good environment as well?
So I think having a space for your scholar to to kind of go and work, right? Even if it's a scholar that's assisting or helping with their younger siblings, maybe being at the kitchen table, and all of you are working on your work. They're working on theirs, you're working on yours, and you're kind of there to help them if they have questions. But or if you're the only child, making sure that you have a space in the home where you can I won't say free from distractions because there are some students that kind of need music. There are some students who need for it to be quiet. There are some students who need that natural light. There are some students who need an actual lamp there. So again, just kind of knowing what that child needs and what's conducive for their study habits, and making sure that all that's there and accessible. Also kind of um, teaching them kind of like to see the big picture. Because a lot of times children might ask, well, why am I doing this? We take a test on Friday and then I don't do it anymore. I don't use it anymore. So kind of getting them to see the big picture and see why math facts are important or why reading is important or science or social studies or things like that. And then also having like kind of like a study time, right? Where they devote that time to working on homework or meeting with a peer who's helping them with homework, or they might have a tutor that's working with them. So that having that designated set time, and if you kind of have to get off a little bit, it's okay, but kind of making it consistent somewhat, in a sense. So again, that student is able to know, okay, at 4:30. Um, Shanice is going to come in and we're going to work on my math facts. And then she leaves and I have to do my stuff independently. But at least they kind of have a system in place, right? Again, making sure everything's there so they don't have to keep getting up, going back here, going there, going to, and being distracted from the task at hand as well. So again, just making sure the environment is conducive for them to be able to study and to foster good study habits.
And I think you mentioned two things, both having that space and also, at least I noted, like when you said, I know at 4:30, they're going to come and work on math facts. So that sense of consistency as
Mm-hmm.
well. Like at 4:30, this is my, like when your show comes on, right? Like at 6:30, my show's coming on. So I got to get all my, whatever I need to get done, I need to have it done so I can get ready to have my show on. So I think that's at least the same attitude that can kind of be taken with their work time. And it could be
Mm-hmm.
something as simple as like homework, or it could be maybe that's their reading time, or maybe extending it a little further since we do college and career readiness. Maybe it's a time that you just secured like after lunch or after dinner or during dinner where you kind of sit down and have a conversation. Like I know
Mm-hmm.
this is going to be conversation time. And like you said, maybe it's an empowerment time. It all depends on, how you frame that conversation. And I'm glad you mentioned the first words out your mouth were having that conversation because that ties back to when I had a guest talking about trade talks and how to start those
Mm-hmm.
conversations and how to get your child motivated into those things. And the first thing he
Yes.
even said was talk to them,
Yes.
ask them.
Yes.
And even we had our lovely Chris Morgan talk about mindsets and growth mindsets as well on that episode and life skills. She said, have a conversation with them, ask them what they like to do, ask them why they like to do it, and kind of get their opinion. And I think that's important. Like you said, some people need a lamp, some people don't. Some people, I've been in classrooms where they like the lights to kind of be a little bit lower because they feel a bit more relaxed, not completely off, just a little bit low. But some, they're like, no, ma'am, no ham. I can't. I need the lights on because it's going to make me think that it's like nap time or I'll be too chill and I'm not going to be focused. So I think having those conversations is definitely important in that system. Oh, and I see Vanna said that they're talking about that in their parent council meeting. So I'm definitely glad that this topic is being discussed because personal pain, I think it's one of the most important, like creating that entire network. And I think our communities have so much to offer the students as well as their journeys. And often that disconnect kind of doesn't create, at least for me, the most powerful system that could be to make the child successful. When the community isn't pulled into the school, or when the school is just at school, and when they leave school, that's just it. And they go home and it's kind of like a completely different network. Now, when we're thinking of leveraging those creating those routines, structures, and kind of consistency between the two, are there any tips other than just having those conversations for getting some routines or structures at home that can build that consistency? Like you mentioned, like sitting, and having a workspace, because I know our home is often different than the classroom, very different. So it's hard to make that transition and creating those structures or routines. So do you have any like tips or just from your experience, things that's worked when you've kind of been working with families and communities that help to kind of create a similar structure or routine at home?
So again, I think having that space, but maybe having like a laptop, like a lap desk, so the student can work at the lap desk. Because there might be some students who like to kind of lay down and read. There might be some that like to lounge and read. There might be some that like to sit up and read. Right. So again, knowing the students and knowing what works for them, um, kind of helps. So some students need that music, right? So having the music, but then also saying, okay, at 8 o'clock, we're going to cut off all games, TVs, things like that, because I want you to focus on getting your work done, finishing your work, and taking your bath and getting ready for bed so that you can get sufficient amount of sleep and get ready to start and get ready to start the day, but also so you know where your things are, like your folder, your book, so you don't leave a laptop or leave anything at home. Kind of having that routine, right? Having a space where they leave the stuff at night when they finish. They know that it's going to be there in the morning. They can go right to it, grab it, put it in their backpack, or go ahead and pack their backpack up at night, right? Or if they're tired, just again leave it in a set space so they know it's there the next morning. So again, I think that's an important part of the routine and the structure is kind of having things in a set space, even if it's the materials. So that way you don't have to call your mom at 11:30 and say, I left my Chromebook at home. Can you bring it to me? Right. So having that structure so the student knows. And then the same thing, it kind of translates to the school because they might have a space where they have certain materials in the classroom as well. Right. And so they kind of know, well, if I take that home and it's not here at school, then she may not have an extra one for me. So I need to be responsible and make sure that I leave it here at school. So again, in kind of fostering, creating a sense of responsibility amongst your child, but also helping them in a way, not being a helicopter parent, but helping them too by prompting them, saying, make sure you have everything you need for in the morning so that way you're not rushing in the morning. Okay, yes, ma'am, thank you. I appreciate it, right? Or you might get a teeth suck or a head roll or eye roll or something like that. But at least they're here in the back of their mind, like, oh shoot, she did tell me to get that last night. Let me go ahead and grab it this morning, right? So even if they didn't do it the night before, they'll remember it that morning because they'll still hear your nagging voice in their mind saying, make sure you don't leave anything. I'm not coming to bring it to you at the school. Grab everything, right? So structures and routines are very important.
Definitely. Even for me, even at this big age, it's still, and like that, I hear my mother's nagging voice of, you forgot it because you were rushing in the morning. So I now, when I'm getting ready for the next day, or if I know I need to make sure I remember something, whether I'm going into a school or a meeting, I'm the one that I will literally try to pack my work bag the day before and also set it by the door. So there's no forgetting it if it is literally by the door. Or if I need to make sure that I remember a piece of paper, I'll put it under my car keys. Mm-hmm. So when I look at my car keys, I can see it and be reminded of it in that moment. Because if not, I will 100% hear my mom's voice. I told you to stop rushing so much in the morning, or if you had it ready before, you wouldn't be scattered in the morning. You wouldn't forget it if you were ready ahead of time. So that voice, even at this big age, will still remind me the night before, even down to clothes. You remember when your first day of school, you got that outfit ready the day before? Mm-hmm. When I have an office day, yes, I for sure get my outfit ready like the day before so I know I have everything I need so I'm not rushing and trying to find it, or I wanted to wear this shirt but it's wrinkled. Like I know everything and I have a set place where I put those things like when I'm getting ready kind of in the morning. Mm-hmm. But you mentioned responsibility, and that reminded me of a question I got yesterday, which I believe this is a perfect place to ask it because I was wanting to know when I can ask it or where's the best place to ask it. I was at a book fair because we actually held a book fair at Royce West Leadership Academy last night. It was a family event, so community was there, book fair, lots of parents were there. So I was glad that I got to have those conversations with them kind of as I'm checking out, their books, scanning their books that they got. Nice. And I can kind of ask those questions. And I was talking with one of the parents, and a lot of kids pick up manga, of course, like, anime books, or, some parents call them cartoon books, and like, it's going to trigger the kids. It's not a cartoon, it's anime. But they picked it up, and the one parent was telling them, like, why did you get a different book, a book you can read? And they're like, I can read. It's, there's words in here. And I told them, I was like, well, when I was younger, I read things in school, and honestly, I didn't get interested in reading until I found something that actually interested me. Yep. And the parent was like, you know what, you're right. I was like, I just find it kind of hard because I know they should be reading and they need to be reading and all the importance of reading. So I want them to be like accountable and actually be reading, but I don't want to make it to where it's not enjoyable for them. Because they also said, like, you know what, now that I think about it, like sometimes in school, it wasn't the way the teacher pushed, it just didn't work for me. And it made me not want to read. And it kind of had the opposite effect. So when we're thinking of school and support, how can parents kind of balance encouraging their child, but also holding them accountable, kind of when they're supporting them academically? I know that might be a hard kind of discussion to
Mm.
decipher, but just being able to encourage them and like give those good jobs, but also holding them accountable when it comes to kind of school and schoolwork.
So again, I think it comes from kind of knowing your child, knowing their interests, right? If you know that they want to do something with NASA and planes later, and you have to, and you remind them, well, you're going to need math and science, or you're going to need to know how to read. You're going to need to know these skills in order to do those things or do the things you love, right? So kind of building from there and building from their interests, their passion, what they love to do, what motivates them, what encourages them, and using that as a to kind of leverage that sense of academic responsibility, and letting them know too that even though and it, so I'll be honest too, even though teachers are supposed to teach, right, and it's supposed to uh, nurture the minds of our learners and keep them engaged and motivated, there are some that just don't do that. There are some teachers that don't encourage, motivate, or inspire a lot of our children. And so you have to kind of teach your child to motivate, inspire, and encourage themselves sometimes. And so, as a parent, that's one way to hold them accountable as well. When you say to them, if they say, well, I didn't do well on my test today, and then you say, okay, you didn't do well today, but what did you not do well on? What are we gonna work on together to make sure that you do well the next day, right? Or the next time you encounter this concept. So again, kind of helping them not feel defeated, but helping them to take accountability for their actions or for what may have happened, or maybe the teacher again didn't teach the concept in a way that they understood it, right? Teaching them that even though they have these new ways of teaching concepts, it's okay for them to kind of learn a concept in a way that might work for them, but still do it in the way that the teacher wants you to do it, because you might lose points, but try to find a way that helps you or works with you. If you know you can't really focus because certain things are written down, you need to hear those things, then record, like go back, read over your notes and read them into something and play it back. Do it on your like little voice memo on your phone, right? And say, okay, today we did fractions. I learned the top number was a numerator, the bottom number is a denominator. And what are we going to do when we add, subtract, multiply fractions? Stay tuned. Up next, right? Or make it fun, so the your student thinks that they're doing like a podcast or doing something fun, and but it's really them relearning and reinforcing the concept that they've done in school, but it's holding them accountable again, right?
I think that's a great tactic that you mentioned. Whether that was the intention or not, I definitely caught on to it because putting myself in that position and thinking of like, I certainly have test anxiety, especially if it's an important test
Mm-hmm.
and you know you like it's important, not just academically, important for you and kind of what your goals are. It's kind of one extreme. Say you fail something at a test, you're like, oh, it's fine, you'll get them next time. And I think that's not, maybe there's not enough accountability there and it's too much encouraging. But then if you just harp on them, you really need to get that done. You know, you need that to be able to do what you want to do. It kind of maybe is a bit too much on the accountability side. But I think the way that you framed it is a great tactic. You're like, nah, like you're not going to be able to, do what you need to do or, be NASA or a part of NASA if you don't get that math grade up.
Mm-hmm.
But the balance isn't saying, but what exactly was it? Because it wasn't the whole test that you failed. What exactly did you fail? And then helping them work through how to succeed in the future, I think kind of, at least for me inadvertently, would be that encouragement. Because,
Mm-hmm.
okay, it's in it together. Like, I know that this is serious and I did mess up. There's that accountability, but you kind of frame it to not hang on to that so much and to kind of work, how am I going to fix this? And
Mm-hmm.
then it also helps them figure out a way because definitely parents have a lot of, they're educators too, right? The home, you're learning everywhere you go.
Oh
So
yeah.
you can definitely help, you have problem solving skills and can help them figure out maybe there's different ways. Like you said, if you know your kid, they're interested in dancing. Everybody says you remember things when you dance, or you can remember those songs, but can you remember, your times tables? So, like you said, if you know your student, then you can maybe find a creative way, like, well, why don't you just try making a dance out of it or make a song out
Hmm.
of it? If they like making music and making songs, make a song out of it, put a beat to it and tell
Hmm.
them, and there can be there, mixing and they're kind of learning while they're doing it. And it, like I said, it's helping them learn it because it's something that they enjoy to do. So I think that's a great balancing tactic. Say, that's not going to jive. That's not okay. But how are we going to fix it? Like, what particularly does it needs work, and how are we going to work on it? And that we, I think, is the most powerful. How are we going to fix this? So they
Yes,
know that
yes.
they're not alone to figure it out themselves. Even if it's something as simple as like I need to practice more, it still feels better to have like somebody there with you, or where you know that you're not alone and kind of figuring it out, especially if it's a big
Hmm.
hurdle and you're terrible at it. It feels like a huge distance to kind of your goal to succeed. So knowing that like you're kind of not alone in the struggle, I think kind of can go a long way. Now, of course, there's powerful tools in the home, in the school, but there are definitely powerful tools outside the home that many families don't even realize are available, from
Hmm.
tutoring centers, mentorship programs, nonprofit support groups. And this is one of the most exciting questions I had, or I was excited to ask you, because I know all of the amazing work that you do within the community and helping families find resources. And I know resources may change, from community to community, and accessing them may not be the same. But just what are some examples of community resources that you found that supported students and families just kind of in your work that they might not have been aware of? Because those things, still may exist in communities here, or, anywhere that could be watching. So just kind of, what do you know some community resources that maybe aren't as often tapped into, or people don't know about, or that you found that was really helpful that you kind of helped families tap into?
So one of the things is a distrust of systems, right? A lot of our parents distrust systems because at some point, somewhere, there has been a breakdown in communication in some of those systems to where they have to go and get assistance, but there have been a breakdown. So one of the things that we did, and I partnered with the family liaison. It's the family liaison and community partner specialist at a Title I school. It's a Title I funded position, but we created a parent resource center. So in there we have their books. That they come in for coffee with Kim. That's the young lady. That's the specialist. And so they have meetings with her and they can sit and talk with her about different things. She started putting things in Spanish and other languages of the students that are there at the school. Parents can come in and fill out applications for things, or if they don't want to meet at the home, a DSS worker can come to the school and meet them at the school. Right. So it creates a sense of, I don't want this person in my home, but we still can create this meeting space, and I'm still meeting my needs as a parent who has to have these meetings with this community person in order to get my support or my resources, but we're doing it on neutral ground at a schoolhouse, right? And so in that center, there are also parent books. There are books for parents, there are printers, there's copiers. So if a parent needs to do certain things that they may not have access to at home, they can do them right there in that parent resource center. All right. So again, it's just kind of meeting the parents where they are, and letting them know, hey, I know Mark said he didn't bring his permission slip today. If you want to come over to the school when you pick him up today, this afternoon, you can print it out right here and sign it for him, and it's okay. We'll still take it, that kind of thing. Because again, a lot of parents literally are getting off, coming to get their children from school, and then going and starting second shift, which is homework with their child, getting them ready for bed, doing all these different things. So again, parents are working two shifts, sometimes three shifts if you have a sick child and you have to stay up with them overnight, right? So again, we take all that into account and make sure we meet parents where they are by providing those resources. Having a partnership with like a Loaves and Fishes, or um, a community food bank or things like that too, where they come and they do an actual food distribution at the schoolhouse, right? So then again, the parent doesn't have to go to like 25, 30 miles to the next town on Tuesday at 11 o'clock a.m. when they're working to try to get the food or the extra resources they need for nourishment. You have the food supply right there at school. So we do that too at the Title I school where we're implementing this. We also have parent and family fun nights. Right. One of the events we did was a escape room. And this was when escape rooms were big, but we did it where parents and families had to work together to decipher concepts. So concept may be using metaphors and similes in a language arts for a language arts project. I mean, not project, but activity, and breaking that code. And then you can go to the next one, and then they would get incentives, gift cards, gas cards. The child would get like the little bucks for the school store. So different incentives for the parents, right? We had food, we had all kinds of different things there for the parent, right? We had translators, different people from the community who were also there as well. So again, it was a safe space for the parents to kind of be in. It was family oriented so that they could bring the entire family, even their younger siblings could come and hang out and be a part of the escape room team, right? And so then by doing that, it fostered a sense of family engagement and promoted where all of everybody could be present, but everybody had to work together as a family to unlock the next level, right? And so it also kind of fostered a sense of knowing they had to work together to meet a goal, and you could see everyone's faces light up, or yeah, he did it, my dad did it, everyone giving each other high fives and all the fun stuff, like, and that was the most well attended family engagement activity that we did. And so we had a STEM night. There was a health night, health event. It was held on a Saturday. And so that way the parents could come and they had blood pressure checks, breast cancer, so different things for the parents to also kind of tap into on a Saturday morning at the school. They also had mascots come from a local college, cheerleaders, music, DJ, food, bouncy house, like all the different things too. So that way, encouraging, making it fun. It was a Saturday, so the parent didn't have to worry about taking time off of work, rushing from work to get there, those kind of things. So again, it's all about meeting parents where they are and kind of saying to yourself, okay, let me send this family needs assessment out or this community needs assessment and see what our community needs or see how we can meet the parents where they are, and and then also help, right? Another thing that this school does is they do after school tutoring, and it's through Title I funding, and so they pay for the transportation. The student doesn't have to worry about a parent picking them up. Buses are provided. They eat snacks while they're there, and then they get the extra additional supplemental instruction, right? So again, that also helps the parent. So say you're a parent and you work till 5, and the tutoring ends at 5, so you don't have to rush to the school to try to get your child. All those things, they come straight home to you. You can just go straight home after work, unwind a little bit, and wait for them to come on the bus, right? So again, different kind of measuring the needs of the parent. As I mentioned, the parents are the experts when it comes to our children, our students, right? And so meeting the needs of those parents so that we can meet the needs of the students is kind of what we should do, and it should be paramount.
I think when you were mentioning talking about Miss, I call her Miss Kim. You were talking about her meetings that she has. Is it you said meetings with Kim? Is that what it's called?
Coffee with Kim.
Coffee. Yes, coffee with Kim. And I think that kind of mirrors like what you said you did in the classroom when you're bringing them in and having those meetings, because I would assume if she's making those, she probably has a very good relationship with them. So if there's a
Mm-hmm.
distrust of the system, she is a safe space.
Mm-hmm.
So allowing parents to kind of come into that space that she has created to do things that may not be as trusting, it kind of allows them to get the help that they need in a safe way that they're able to kind of do it, since she's created that safe space by creating that support system. Now, you mentioned
Mm-hmm.
she was the community support liaison, like at the
Mm-hmm.
school. So that made me think of like a lot of questions that I get from families is they don't always know it. And of course, my dad always said, you don't know what you don't know. And they don't know how to access these resources or that they're there. So you mentioned the community liaison in schools, which I know those are maybe not in every school, but they're in a lot of schools will have a community liaison or somebody that works directly with the community. Are there any other ways that you know that families can learn about or access these resources? Like how could they know that they're there and that they're available for them?
So a lot of times, there should be kind of a family engagement unit within the school systems or the school district. And there should be newsletters that go out. There should be messages that go out to parents. And sometimes they get lost, especially if it's sent in a paper form in a child's backpack. So I think having the Facebook pages now, a lot of schools have Facebook pages that says, "Hey parents, check us out. On Tuesday we're doing STEM night. Come hang out. We'll play with robots and have a great time." Right? Or something, just something kind of in kind of getting them there, or doing a TikTok or a video and trying to get the parents to come. They're like, "Oh, let's go check this out and see what this is about," right? Or like I said, we did the escape room. If we were to do like a kind of a teaser to say, "Wow, there's a mystery to be solved. Who's going to solve?" Doing something fun, or just something to get the parents engaged. I think that helps. A lot of the children are also on social media too, right? And so sometimes if they say, "Oh, mom, guess what we're doing on Tuesday night?" and she's like, "Well, I didn't get anything about it. I know it's right here on the Facebook page." Right? And then they could say, "Well, hey, my son saw something on the Facebook page. How do I join that? Or how can I be a member of that? Or how can I know about it? Because he knew about it, but I didn't." Right? And there might be a way that they say, "Oh, I'm glad you asked. Here's a QR code. It takes you right to this, or it takes you right to that." Another thing that's has been created is kind of like a resource center for the parents, where again they have a QR code. The front desk person kind of gives it to them. They can go through the United Way. Of course, United Way is pretty much in every city, every state. And United Way puts them in touch with different resources. It helps them to know what's available. There are also programs such as Backpack Buddies that they send stuff home with the students. They can learn about how to get nourishment and supplemental food for the weekend when they're not in school and they miss that breakfast or that lunch that they normally get at school. So again, it's different means of getting that information. A lot of times schools don't have that community. Like this is a Title I school, and so a lot of the Title I funding, at least for now, is being used to have this person there and to help with the culture and the success of this particular school. Now, some schools that don't have that, again, I think it's very important to have it in a central location. Maybe if it's like a rack with the different information on it, for the parents to kind of see as they're signing their child in and out, or as they're going to meet with the principal or meet with the nurse or meet with whomever, having things accessible and like saying, "Did you know that this exists? Ask here," right? And then saying, "Oh, wow, I didn't know that they would help me with my taxes. Oh, the Volunteer Tax Association. Oh, great. Let me call this number." And then you go in and you ask about it and they say, "Oh yeah, I'm glad you asked. Here's a brochure, or here's a number, or here's a QR code, or here's a way to find out more about getting assistance with your taxes." Right? So again, having it where parents can see it, and where even if they're running and they're just running in to grab their child, they like, even if it's at the door where you have to buzz in, putting something up so they have to say, "Oh," stand there and read it while they're waiting on you to buzz them in. And then they get inside and say, "Hey, I just saw that outside that you're offering after school tutoring. How can I sign my child up?" All right. So again, you kind of have to meet the parents where they are.
I think that's a great tip is social media, and not just for like the schools pages, like,
Hmm.
but also I know like Eventbrite is another one. And
Yes.
you can in the Chamber of Commerce, every city has a Chamber of Commerce, and you can kind of literally just click on the little events tab, the calendar, and just kind of see what's going on. And my personal fave, the underdogs of the world, libraries, they offer a lot, not just books,
Yes.
audiobooks.
Yes.
So I definitely think that's the way, now that I'm thinking about it as well, that families can kind of learn about resources and meeting where they're at. And they're definitely, each branch kind of has different things, from exercise classes, health classes, tutoring, mentorship. I even saw one had a resume building workshop for
Hmm.
adults as well as for students. It was open to actually all ages, whoever needed kind of a resume. So you can go in with your student, and both of you guys can kind of get, work on that resume, because it always helps to get an extra pair of eyes, kind of on those things. So I think that's definitely a way, but social media for sure, because even the library posts their
Hmm.
events on social media. Chamber of Commerce posted on social media, and almost every social media has a search feature to where you could literally just put events. Like around here, I could put events in Mesquite, events in Dallas, or events in Fort Worth, and every city across the country, you can just Google events in this
Hmm.
city or classes in this city. I did that once when I was looking for local cooking classes, because I was doing a career expo and I was like, I want somebody that does classes with kids. That would be amazing to kind of bring into the schools. and have a little demonstration with the kids. So I literally was like cooking classes near Polk Middle School. And then I did cooking classes near Gunn Middle, junior high. So you can, in Google, put near the location. So you can choose your child's school and just ask what resources are there. You can put cooking classes in this area or trade camps. It's summertime. You're definitely wanting something for those students to do, and definitely don't what they call summer slide. And a lot of them want people to kind of just stay in the mode and not get lazy over the summer. And camps, I think, are a great way that both give the students a break, as in it's a different change of pace and it's more fun, especially if it's something they're interested in, but keeps them kind of in that mindset of like growing, learning, and kind of advancing academically. And like you said, social media, you could find those camps as well as, I mean, even us specifically at Texas A&M, we have an Aggie Camp Finder, which you can filter all types of camps we have, which ones have scholarships. Is it a weekend camp? Is it a summer camp? So I definitely would suggest every like college in your area just see if they have camps. I know Dallas College, I follow them on Facebook. They posted about having camps, as well as even Carrollton PD or police department. They even have a junior academy, which they have multiple weeks in the summer where kids can come learn about the different aspects. They get to learn about K9 units. They get to learn about the squad car. So it's still some learning, and it's still some also career oriented, but it for sure gives those resources. Now we
Glad
talked
you
about
mentioned libraries.
yes,
I just want to say I'm
li-
glad you mentioned that because I did leave. Libraries are important. They are important spaces in our community. But yes, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I wanted to say I'm glad you mentioned that.
no. I could always be stopped to mention libraries because they do so much that even surprises
Yes.
me sometimes on like
Hmm.
what is available. Like
Hmm.
even just when you're thinking of reading and books, there's all kinds of books, whether language books, learning books, self-help books, motivation books, books on yoga, and you can get audio books. There's almost every library has like an app to where you can get audio books. I definitely, for my long drives across Dallas Fort Worth area, those long car drives, I use audio books regularly from my local library. And that's a lot of times it's even better than Audible. It's
Hmm.
the local library. They have more books and free of charge. Now, when we're thinking of a lot of things today, and we've discussed definitely a lot of tips and tricks. But to kind of round it all up, I always ask this question at the end of any. So if we're talking about there's a parent and they want to do start tomorrow on
Hmm.
strengthening their academic network, what would you say is like one step or would be the first step that they can kind of take in strengthening that academic support system between whether it's communities and home, the school and home? What would you say is that first step that they could take tomorrow if they wanted to start making that network?
So hopefully, every school has a guidance counselor that actually can focus on the needs of the community, the students, the parents, etc. Right? A lot of times, our guidance counselors have gotten more. They've been pulled out to do more with testing or do more with assessments and things like that. Whereas when I was coming along, our guidance counselors actually put us in touch with resources, right? They made sure that they had wraparound services for certain parents that needed certain things. They were able to make sure that a student was successful, or they got a voucher to the food bank, or a voucher to the clothing bank, or they were able to get some of those Maslow's hierarchy of needs met. Now, with that being said, if there aren't guidance counselors, or if there aren't guidance counselors that focus as much on, I think now they're just school-based counselors is kind of like the name now for a lot of them instead of guidance counselors. But I think one of the things that they should do is kind of have a counselor corner where they send things home or share certain things. Again, putting it somewhere where parents can see it. And if the parent doesn't see it, or they're interested, or they want to know more, they might join the PTA, right? Parent Teacher Association. They might join a parent council. I know recently my younger sister joined a parent council at her daughter's school, at my niece's school, and she's able to kind of see a lot, but she's also able to give some insight and some feedback and say, well, I appreciate what you're saying, but here's what I also think as well. So again, I think having those things in place for parents so parents can realize their agency and that they can also be empowered to be partners in their child's success, I think that's very important, right? And so if that isn't available at a school, maybe having a parent say, "Hey, I was wondering how I can get more involved with policy or things that are happening here at the school. Do you have a parent advisory council? If you don't, what are some ways that I can volunteer and help out or assist?" So again, I wanting to empower the parents to know that they can ask those questions, because again, like I said earlier, there's a mistrust and distrust sometimes of systems. So making sure that parents know, even as a teacher, the teacher can say, "Hey, I don't know if Shay told you about the STEM night we're having on Tuesday night, but I wanted to let you know that we are having a STEM night from 6 to 7:30. From 7:30 to 8, you're able to do kind of like hands-on activities as a family, and I just wanted to let you know, because also if you attend that, then it counts towards an incentive or whatever it might be, right?" And then the teacher's like, "Oh, thank you for sharing that with me." And the teacher and the parent might go and say, "Well, let me find out more about that." Right? Or asking the parent, "Hey, have you joined our Facebook group?" Or, "Hey, did you receive the newsletter we sent out about what's happening here and about family engagement on campus and in the community?" And if they say, "No, I didn't receive it," "Oh, well, let me put you on a listserv so I can make sure I email it to you. What's the best email address for you?" They say, "Well, I don't have email." "Well, do you mind if I text it to you?" "Sure, text it to me." Right? So again, finding out how the parent kind of receives that information, and making sure that you get it to them. So it might be a student that you email things to, but then there might be parents you actually text things to, right? But then there might be someone that says, "Put it in his folder. I check his folder every night." Right. So again, kind of making sure that you hit on all of those avenues and formats, but also um, not doing too much, but saturating it enough to where they see it in one of the three or four or five places or spaces. So that way it kind of jogs their memory and they say, "Oh, I need to contact such and such tomorrow when I drop him off so I can find out about that event." Right.
Well, it's definitely a lot of amazing advice we receive. Having those conversations, definitely important in creating conversations, because that's kind of the key to everything, is asking for resources, asking for help, building
Mm-hmm.
a support system with your child, making sure that your voice is heard. It kind of all starts with having those conversations on there. So thank you so much, everyone watching, for joining this workshop of It Takes a Village, Educational Success Through Family and Community Support. We hope this gave you some new ideas and inspiration for building up your student with the help of a strong and connected support system. And a heartfelt thank you to our guest, Dr. Tiffany Hollis, for sharing your wisdom and reminding us that we don't have to do it all alone, and that community matters. So be sure to like and subscribe to Level Up Texas's channel so you don't miss the next workshop, where we'll continue to share tips, insights, and encouragement to help your family thrive. So let's keep building bridges, supporting dreams, and walking this journey together. So thanks and gig 'em.